Welcome to EH Classroom series. I am Daniyal. So today we are going to see the most interesting, the most rarest topic that I wanted to present from a long time. Now that I finally got a chance to cover it, is the topic of parasitic elements in electrical circuits. Without any further ado, let's get straight into a topic. Now let's see how to model these components in real life. By this I mean, if the resistor has inductance, if the resistor also has capacitance, it means that in its equivalent circuit will also have some inductor present. Okay, if there is inductance, definitely we have to model there an inductor. If it has capacitance, we have to model a capacitor. But how exactly they are connected? Okay, either they are in series or parallel. If they are in parallel or series, we have to see. So exactly this combination, this perfect combination, we'll see in the next section. Now let's see the real life model or practical model of a resistor. In ideal world, the resistor looks something like this, but we model it as a combination of these three elements as we have earlier seen. Okay, so here the resistance is in parallel with the parasitic capacitance. This Cp, P actually represents that this is the parasitic element. Okay, so parasitic capacitance is actually in parallel with this resistance, this inherent resistance, and this is the parasitic inductance which is in series to that of these elements. Okay, so first let's analyze the circuit. What if we provide DC to the circuit? Okay, or zero frequency AC signal, or it's essentially a DC signal. Okay, so at DC signal, if you provide DC to this, okay, what is the property of inductance? What is the property of inductor at DC? It will act as a short circuit. Okay, so essentially there will be a short circuit or no element will be present here. Okay, what is the property of capacitor? At DC condition, this capacitor will act as an open circuit. So definitely there will be no element present here, which effectively means that at DC, this resistor will only behave as a resistor. Okay, it will only behave as a resistor because these two elements will not play any role in the DC condition. And this is completely logical because these elements, inductance and capacitance, are frequency dependent. We'll only see their effects at some frequency. So at DC condition, we'll only see this pure resistance. Okay, their reactances will only come into picture if we provide some frequency to them. So what about the AC signal? See, this resistor in the ideal world, even if we provide AC signal to it, it will only behave as a resistor. Okay, it will not have any reactance. It will only have the real term, that is resistance. Okay, apart from that, it will not have any reactance like inductive reactance or capacitive reactance. But in the real world, as we have these reactive elements present, capacitor and inductor, then it means that at AC, if we provide AC to this circuit in the real world or practical world, if we provide AC to the resistor in the real or practical world, we will definitely get some reactance. Okay, so these reactive effects will change according to the frequency because we already know that these components are frequency dependent. So let's see the change or variation in impedance with respect to the frequency. If we change the frequency, what will be the effect on the impedance of the circuit? Okay, overall impedance. Okay, we have two terminals at the resistor side, we also have two terminals here. So we'll consider the overall impedance of the circuit. Okay, overall impedance between these two terminals. Okay, so definitely at lower frequencies or DC frequency, at zero frequency, what we get is the impedance is only constituted by the resistance itself. Okay, or the pure resistance or the real term. Okay, real term of the impedance. Okay, definitely. But what about lower frequencies? We already know that capacitor at low frequency provides a very high capacitive reactance in the circuit, whereas the inductor will provide very least amount of inductive reactance for low frequencies. Okay, so it effectively means that the circuit will act more like a capacitor. Ideally the impedance curve should extend parallel to the x-axis, something like this. Okay, because it's very much logical. If the component is pure, if the component is ideal, definitely this resistor will only possess the property of resistance. Okay, the property of resistance, and that's why the impedance will remain constant throughout the change in frequency. Okay, throughout the change in frequency, it will not change. But due to these parasitic elements, what you see is that we see a dip. Okay, we see a dip at lower frequencies due to the dominance of capacitive effect. So we keep increasing the frequency. We know that for high frequency, the capacitor offers very low capacitive reactance. Okay, whereas the inductor provides very high inductive reactance. Okay, so this means that at high frequencies, this inductive effect will prevail. Okay, it will dominate, and that's why we'll see more we'll see the impedance curve look more like the inductive reactance curve. That's why we again see a rise after this dip in the impedance curve with frequency. Now one very good question that you might ask is that what about this resistance? What about its effect? Definitely its value will remain constant throughout the frequency change, but why it is not affecting at high frequencies? Okay, it is very simple, because this capacitor is essentially shunting this element, this resistor. Okay, so it will actually bypass this resistor, so the effect of resistance will be very less as compared to the effect of this inductor. So from this plot we can say that a real life resistor can behave in this three manner. Okay, first is definitely at lower frequencies the resistor will behave as a resistor itself, and if you increase the further frequency it will behave as a capacitor. Further, if you increase the frequency it will act as an inductor. Why this notch is present in the curve? Its explanation is very simple. If you observe, it is actually an RLC circuit. We have already seen about RLC circuits. Okay, a capacitor and an inductor. Now here essentially they are in series. Okay, there is definitely a resistor in parallel to that of the capacitor, but definitely it is actually forming an RLC circuit because there will be some other resistance element present, and even if it is not present, at least it is an LC circuit. Okay, what is the property of an LC circuit? That there exists a frequency. Okay, there exists a frequency where the capacitive reactance equals the inductive reactance. Okay, or the frequency at which the circuit will oscillate the most, will respond to the frequency the most. That frequency is actually known as the resonance frequency or the resonant frequency. But here, my dear friends, because these elements are not external, they are actually internal elements. Okay, they are parasitic elements. That's why this resonant frequency, okay, this resonant frequency where we are getting a drop in the circuit impedance will be known as the self-resonant frequency. Okay, the phenomenon of self-resonance, because this is actually a resistor. In ideal world, we do not expect this resistor to have any resonant frequency because no other element is actually connected and it only possesses resistance. So why it will oscillate? But even in the real life, the resistor even can oscillate, okay, due to the presence of these parasitic elements that are parasitic capacitance and parasitic inductance. And other interesting question is that why this point is below this resistance level? Okay, it is very simple, because this is actually a kind of acceptor circuit. Okay, you have capacitor and inductor in series. That's why there exists a frequency where the circuit impedance will drop to a minimum value. Okay, the circuit current will jump back to its highest value or attain its peak or maximum value. That's why we get a drop in the circuit impedance. Okay, and the formula for the resonant frequency or the self-resonant frequency here will be the same as we have seen for the series RLC. Okay, that will be 1 upon twice pi root LC, but here the L and C are actually the parasitic components and not the real components. Okay, so they are actually L, P and into C, P, okay, due to the parasitic elements. So from this we can say that a practical resistor can only be used as a resistor within a certain particular frequency range. Okay, it cannot be used for unlimited bandwidth of frequency. Okay, like here. So there exists a threshold value until which it will act as expected, okay, as a resistor. If you further increase the frequency, you will see the weird changes. Okay, so our second model is the practical model of a capacitor. Okay, so ideally the capacitor is denoted by this symbol, but in reality it is something like this. Okay, it is a complete network of these elements connected in a proper manner. Now here there are a couple of elements, but first let's see the parasitic resistive or parasitic resistance elements. Okay, they are actually, this first one is the series parasitic resistance. This is actually accounted by all of the metal that is present in the capacitor, like its plates as well as its leads. Okay, so it is given in series to that of the other elements, and this one specifically, this parasitic resistance is actually the leakage resistance of the capacitor. Okay, there is always a small leakage current flowing through the capacitor because the dielectric is not perfect. So that very small current that flows through the dielectric is actually accounted by this leakage resistance or this leakage parasitic resistance. Okay, now other element that we have is this parasitic inductance. Okay, this parasitic inductance is due to the leads of the capacitor. Okay, and this is connected in series. Here this capacitance, this is our real capacitor value, or this is our ideal capacitor. Okay, So let's start our analysis. So if we provide a low frequency signal to the circuit, what will happen? So at low frequency, this inductor will impart a very less inductive reactance in the circuit, okay, whereas the capacitor will impart the highest capacitive reactance, okay. That's why this inductive reactance will be negligible as compared to that of the capacitive reactance, and that's why at low frequencies the capacitive effect will prevail, will dominate, okay, will actually dominate, okay. So definitely at lower frequencies, what you see that this curve behaves as the same, or which is expected by a capacitor, that is the curve of capacitive reactance with respect to the frequency, okay. So it is definitely the same. It is actually an exponential decay or degrade, okay, you can see. But if we increase the frequency, okay, let's directly jump to here. If we increase the frequency at very high frequencies, what will happen? At high frequencies, this inductor will impart a very higher inductive reactance as compared to that of this capacitive reactance. So at higher frequencies, this inductor will dominate the capacitive reactance, and that's why we'll see a curve resembling more to that of inductive reactance, okay, at higher frequencies, definitely, okay. But what about at the middle, okay, what about at the center? Again, we'll see a dip, okay, we'll see a dip in the circuit impedance. Why we are getting this dip? Very simple. Again, this circuit is a series RLC circuit, and why? Because this inductor and capacitor is actually connected in series. And you might ask that what about this resistor? This is actually just a leakage resistor, okay. It can be present, but eventually these two elements are present in series. That's why the characteristics of a series RLC circuit is that at a particular resonant frequency, okay, at a particular resonant frequency, its impedance will be at its minimum, okay, and this is exactly the point where the resonance occurs. Now here again, as our previous example, this resonance will be self-resonance, okay, or self-resonant. This circuit is self-resonant. Why? Because the only element which is real is this capacitance, and this element is actually, it is parasitic element, and because this capacitor can resonate. Without the inductor, the capacitor cannot resonate, and because this this inductor is parasitic, this resonance is known as self-resonance. So again, at resonance, the capacitive reactance will be compensated by the inductive reactance, or capacitive reactance will be equal to the inductive reactance, and the formula for the resonant frequency will be 1/2 pi root LC, where L is nothing but our parasitic inductance. Now you may ask a question, where is the resistive region? If we have the capacitive region and the inductive region, where is the resistive region? Actually, we do have a resistive region, but it is very small, okay, very narrow, and it only exists at the resonant frequency, because we only have one resonant frequency. Definitely it is a single frequency, and only then we know that XL equal to XC, that is inductive reactance equal to capacitive reactance. So only at that particular point, at that particular resonant frequency or the self-resonant frequency, we'll get the impedance will only be contributed by the resistances themselves, okay, and only at that point we'll get the resistive region. Now ideally, in an ideal capacitor, this curve actually extends something like this, okay, exponential decay. But because we have this practical capacitor model, okay, we have these elements present, these parasitic elements present, that's why we are getting this dip, okay. Otherwise the curve is something like the capacitive reactance curve, okay. So from this we can conclude that a capacitor can only act as a capacitor within a particular frequency range, okay. If we increase further the frequency, okay, until a particular frequency, it will act normally, but after that it will act weirdly, and after the resonant frequency, after the self-resonant frequency, it will invert itself, okay, it will completely flip to the inductor, okay, it will act then more like an inductor. Now let's see our third and last model, which is of the inductor, okay. In the ideal world, the inductor looks something like this, okay, but in the real world, we model it using these elements, okay, connected in such combination, where we have this parasitic resistance and this parasitic capacitance connected, okay. This parasitic capacitance is in parallel with both of these, where this is in series with the original inductance value, okay. So again, we start our analysis first with lower frequencies. So what if we provide low frequency to this circuit, how it will behave, okay. So at lower frequencies, this capacitor will impart a more higher capacitive reactance than this, inductor will only impart a very low inductive reactance, okay. So if this is imparting very high capacitive reactance, okay, so it is essentially acting as an open circuit. If you see, okay, broadly if we speak, this capacitor will act as an open circuit. So the only element present in the circuit which will affect it to a higher extent will be this inductor, okay, will be this inductor, and that's why at the initial stage we see that the graph of impedance actually closely resembles with the inductive reactance graph. Okay, so it increases linearly with the increase in frequency. Okay, now again, one interesting question you might ask is that if this capacitive reactance value is higher than the inductive reactance, why not the capacitive reactance is dominating at the starting section or the starting section of the graph? It is very simple, because in the earlier circuit the elements, the capacitor and inductor, were actually in series, but here they are in parallel. Okay, and if they are in parallel, the element which provides the least opposition will actually dominate. Okay, definitely, because this is acting more like an open circuit, and that's why this element, this inductor, will definitely behave more like an inductor. Moving forward, we again increase the frequency, and let's see for a very high frequency what is the response of this circuit. Okay, for very high frequency, this inductor will impart a very high inductive reactance as compared to the capacitive reactance. Capacitive reactance will be least. So here the condition is just reverse. Now what will dominate? The capacitor will actually dominate, because now the capacitive reactance will be least or less as compared to that of the inductive reactance, and that's why we'll see a curve similar to that of the capacitive reactance variation with respect to frequency. Okay, you can see that the curve of the capacitive reactance is actually a decreasing curve, okay, or a decaying curve. And finally, what happens at this sweet spot? You again know that this is nothing but the self-resonant frequency of the circuit. Okay, this is actually the point of resonance. Why self-resonant? Because definitely here the only real component is inductor, and the capacitor is actually a parasitic element. That's why it is a self-resonant circuit. Okay, and this is the self-resonant frequency. Now here arises a major question. In the earlier models we have seen a major dip, okay, but here we are seeing a major surge. Why this is so? Why the difference? It is simple, because if you observe this circuit, you will see that this is a parallel RLC circuit, or at least a parallel LC circuit. So it is a characteristic of a parallel RLC circuit that it is actually a rejector circuit. Okay, rejector circuit. So at resonant frequency, it will actually attain its maximum impedance. It will offer a maximum impedance at the resonant frequency. That's why this curve is actually surging. Okay, so it means that a simple inductor can behave as a frequency rejector. Okay, it will reject the self-resonant frequency. Okay, its self-resonant frequency it will reject. And what about the resistive region? Again, the resistive region only lies at the resonant point, okay, or the resonance point where XL equal to XC. Okay, again at XL equal to XC, it means that these both elements will cancel each other out. Their effects will be cancelled. Okay, so the only element which will impart some impedance will only be the parasitic resistance elements. Okay, and from the earlier video you already know that the formula for resonance, either it be a parallel RLC or series RLC, is essentially the same, that is 1 upon twice pi root LC. Now here just the real or the ideal component, I would say, is the inductor. Okay, and the parasitic element or parasitic component is our capacitor. That's why we have written CP. So from this we can say that an inductor will only behave as an inductor within a specified frequency range. Okay, within a specified frequency range. Up till this point, up till this frequency point, it will behave normally as an inductor, but when you gradually increase the frequency, there will be a surge point. Okay, and after that it will behave completely opposite and will act as a capacitor, effectively as a capacitor. Okay,